in-depth conversations afterwards. Okay, and I'm not going to do the introduction thing because we just sort of did that, but there may be parts of your story you want to tell in terms of responding to one of the questions or in the conversation, so feel free to do so. It gives context and color to what you're doing. How important a moment in time do you think this is? The hyperbole is easy to come to, right? I mean, the technology of the web. I talked about the comparison with the printing press, this personal cognitive revolution. We're seeing change around the world. Are we overstating the case when we say this is a really important time? And how do you think how important do you think this is in terms of our understanding of what learning is? And I'll let anybody who'd like to start. And there's one mic, so we have to pass it around. Who's ready?
Yeah, I think so. With technology, it's obvious in the information age that things have changed a lot. But when we were having lunch today, we were talking about we're also at odds at a country. You know, we have this high-stakes testing. I was talking at lunch about Pearson, you know, multi-billion-dollar company that has high stakes and a lot of money invested in testing. And so not only are we seeing some major shifts in education and the pedagogy that goes with that, but we're kind of at odds, I think, with ourselves. You know, Civil War is maybe a little drastic to call it that, but you know, there's a lot of tension in education right now about where we're going. And I think it's not just that it's changed a lot, it's that there's a lot at stake, and it'll be interesting to see in the next decade, you know, where do we end up going? And I don't think we're all sure where we are.
Now, I wouldn't normally take the mic back, but this is a good chance. Why don't you answer the questions, remind people of your name? So that was Al, and he is a junior, well, middle school, so ages fifth through 8th grade teaching, which was well represented in your response there, right? Through the independent, feisty spirit.
I didn't drool or make funny noises.
Okay, does anybody else want to answer this question either from a personal or an institutional perspective?
I'm Sharon, and I teach kindergarten. For me, when I'm listening to this question, I'm thinking about in terms of what is happening with young children in school. And for me, I really welcome change. I embrace it. I love it. I think it's really important for growth. So one of the things that I'm thinking a lot about in terms of my own teaching and what the technology tools are doing for me, my students, and their families is how I can use these tools that are collaborative to kind of model change and also help my students and their families learn how to use these tools to connect, to engage, and help enrich what it is that they're learning about. Because really it's not about the tools, it's all about the learning that's happening. And so the tools have just given me an opportunity to work with my children in seamless ways so that they can continue to be excited about those everyday ahas that they're having, whether it be in the block area or if they're making a book or if they're playing with water. But it's just a way to how can you captivate that and share it and put it out there for an audience, because the audience then is where we're all going to get that perspective, someone else's perspective, and we're going to make those connections because other people are going to take interest in what we're learning.
That never could have happened. Right, so kindergartners blogging could never have happened 10 years ago.
No.
It would have been impossible. No. And so is that a big deal? I mean, in the same way that I talked about Instagram and photographs this morning, I don't think you were there, but is that a big deal?
It's a huge deal. Because what my young bloggers are finding out is there's a lot of benefits from that, and they're discovering their voice as learners. So when they're reading and they're writing and they're making these really deep reflective discoveries about what they're doing in math, they have an opportunity to share that. So I think about my students now independently creating posts. They understand what a post has to be. They understand that anything that they share in a digital way has to be safe, kind, and responsible. So right away we have these opportunities as educators to start, modeling what does it mean to be a safe, kind, responsible digital citizen. Because we know in the future everything is going to be digitalized. So as an educator, it's important for us to seize those moments and opportunities.
And I actually just want to comment on the blogging aspect, that I'm actually seeing a lot of my students looking at learning outside of the physical location of the school. So in terms of change, and this is an important time, I think we're coming up against this idea of what is learning. It's happening 24/7. It's happening with our community. It's happening globally. It's not just you come to school at 8 o'clock in the morning, you leave at 3:30. It's become this bigger idea. And along with that, I think there's a lot of fear, especially on the side of the teacher. How do we continue working with students when their learning happens at 9 o'clock at night when they're checking their blog? And how do we respond to that? How do we evolve as teachers to also look at learning and connecting on a 24/7 level? So.
And I'm Matt Allen. Another piece for me is not only what is learning, but who's a teacher. I mean, that's really a big part of this. So I have two sons, and one of them's in first grade. He's doing a little blogging experiment. He's a guinea pig around the school for certain things since his dad works there. But he's doing some blogging, and seeing the impact that my 5th and 6th graders have on him by commenting and working with him, and through the same, they use kid blog, and having those conversations there. My kids have never thought of, my students have never thought of themselves as teachers, but with the power of the technology we have, it's very real that who is a teacher anymore is an open-ended question, really. I mean, anybody can be. It's not just the person standing in the front of the room. And I think part of that then brings in the conversation of how do we unschool our students, so when I have them come into my room, it's not complete culture shock that I'm not the person they're performing for. I'm not the person they're writing for in my case. There's a bigger world. I'm the facilitator to get them the connections and to help them be successful, but really, I'm not their audience anymore. So I think that comes into play as well.
I want to speak to that. I'm Joyce Babbitt. I'm the librarian at Browns River Middle School in Jericho. And the change I've seen is that the library is louder, it's funner, it's more spontaneous, it's just messy, and it's constant. It feels like perhaps a subway station or airport terminal, and there's just a lot of things going on, and I love that energy. It's a loud energy, it's a constant energy, and I really like it, but I also was resistant to it at first because I was thinking, where's the control factor? And now I'm learning a lot about how it's about all of us learning together, trying to figure things out together. It's fun, but at the same time, you don't know where it's going. Very spontaneous moments may break out. Certainly in my library, you might be seeing singing and dancing. You might be seeing kids with iPads doing claymation. You might be seeing kids, teaming up and deciding that they're going to do something great internationally so that their pal on the other side of the world will have not just a letter anymore, but that they're going to be telling them a story without the use of words, but to show them a story, which I think is really quite unique. So I'm seeing a lot of collaboration going on.
So we've talked about, what is learning, where does learning take place,